everyone, it's Teresa and I am back with another great video for you. It is going to be all farmhouse today and I'm using stencils, but guess what? They're not Chocator stencils. Let's jump in. So I'm starting off with this piece of pine. I want to say it is like 1 inch thick, about I want to say it's 5.5 inches wide. And originally it was, I don't know how many feet. It was probably around like 3 or 3.5 feet right now. And I am actually doing a full coat of the Weatherwash in a color called Driftwood. I teased this little bit of stuff over on my Instagram, which you can follow me. It's actually Theresa B Designs over on Instagram if you want to follow me there. But this is really a kind of a cool new product, at least new to me. And they did send me this weather wash to kind of show you about it. But the weather wash is basically you give it like a full coating of it. It's water based, so it doesn't have a smell to it. And it dries and it gives like a totally different look to it when it dries than when you apply it. It's way lighter when you apply it. And I am going to be using all essential stencils today and a couple other products that they sent to me. They were kind enough to send those over to me. They didn't ask for a video. They didn't ask for me to talk about them. They just said try them out, which I love it when, you know, somebody's like, hey, let me give you some stuff to try out. And they don't expect anything out of it from you. Like there's just, I don't know. It's refreshing. Most of the time people are like, do this video for me for nothing. And I'm not even kidding. Anyways, I will show you here what I'm doing is I'm writing out the word pantry on this board. This is 2 different packs of their stencils. The one is like their letters, I believe they're the 4-inch letters. And then the little farm animals, it's, I don't remember what that one's called. I'll have all of them listed down below in the description box in case you want to check them out. I get nothing from it. So if you want to see them, if not, if you want to help, there's a bunch of other creators that have recently gotten some of their stuff that have like that do earn a commission off of it. So if you want to check their video out, see how they feel about it and use their link, that's cool too. Hey, you know, whatever you want to do and you can help other creators out, that is awesome. All right, I'm going to use some of the faded burlap paint from DIY Paint, and I am also going to believe I mixed in a little bit of crinoline. I don't know. It's like an off-white, very, very like off-white. I don't know. It's nowhere near white. We'll put it that way. Because I wanted to lighten it up a little bit because I don't want it to blend in too much. So obviously, right now, I am going in and stenciling this little cute little pig with the curly tail. I just noticed that. It is like this cute little curly tail. And actually, I said that I mixed in some of the crinoline. I think that's a lie. I don't think I did that. I wanted this one to blend in a little bit more, and you'll see why in a minute. But these brushes are from them too. They're just, you know, a standard stencil brush, but they work really well. And if my recollection is correct, I don't think that they were that bad as far as price. And you get like a whole pack of them. So something to keep in mind if you want to try out any of these stencils or if you just want to get a set of the brushes. And then I'm going to do this, I don't know if this is supposed to be a rooster or chicken. I think it's supposed to be a chicken. Disclaimer, I do not live on a farm. I have a house with some farmhouse decor, but it is not farmish at all as far as where I live. It's super, super rural, very city, but you know what? It's cute. I like it. It's in style. And this is going over to, or has already, I guess, technically gone over to my shop. Last I checked, it was still there, but it's just something cute and it is a lot more, it's a lot more farming community type of stuff out there. So this kind of stuff does pretty well for me over there. Anyways, I did 2 pretty decent coats of it. You can peel it off when it's wet. You can wait for it to be dry. It doesn't really make a difference. You can see that some of this is still wet and I had a little bit of bleeding on the sides. Sometimes you just got to hold down your stencil a little bit firmer. Or if you are really concerned about it maybe bleeding a little bit, you can also take some Mod Podge and put that down as like your first coat. Or if you painted, you can put like the original paint color down as your first coat. So now I've gone ahead and lined up all of my my letters for pantry. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking some of the little black dress and I am kind of going around the pig. I want it to look like he's kind of sitting right in front of the actual lettering, which I guess in hindsight, I probably could have just stenciled the lettering and put him on top of it and it more than likely would have had the same effect. But why not do it the hard way, right? I don't know. And it's a lighter color. The pig is a lighter color than the lettering, so maybe it would have been a little bit harder. I don't know. It probably would have been easier, to be really honest. I probably would have been able to do it just fine. The DIY paint has a pretty decent coverage, so I probably could have. I took the long route. It's okay. I wasn't 100% sure how it was going to work, how I wanted to lay the letters out on top of the pig, and it's all right. Anyways, I'm just taking just a really small brush, and if I get on to where the stencils are, I am doing a little bit of more like a pouncing right on top of that line, just to try and avoid getting it, like getting it under the stencil. Once you get the hang of stenciling, it's really pretty easy. You don't get too much of the bleeding. I do other projects in this video. I noticed more bleeding on this one, but again, first time doing it with these stencils, with these brushes. I think once you get like 1 or 2 projects under your belt, I don't think bleeding is too much of a problem. Plus, if you are like me and you're doing more of like a farmhouse style stuff, you're gonna distress it anyways, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the black and again go in with one of their stencil brushes and do kind of the same method. Make sure you give yourself a little bit of spacing, like if you're doing something like this where I'm kind of going around an animal or around a whatever. Give yourself a little bit of space, that way you don't mess up and you end up getting, splotches of stenciling right on the other part that you're not trying to get it on. Or you could always tape it. I did use painter's tape to hold everything down. There is a product out there, and it's a spray. I cannot think of it what it's called for the life of me. It's basically a stencil spray that'll add an adhesive to the back of it. Sometimes that does make your surface sticky, just to warn you if you do use it. Sometimes it'll leave like a little bit of stickiness behind. If you are using wax on top of it though, it doesn't matter. It's going to hold on to that wax and it works out just fine. Ask me why I know. So I'm going to finish up on this letter, obviously the Y, and then it makes it quick work once you've kind of gotten all the detail work done. And then I do end up moving that along out of the way because I am prone to accidents. So it's just best just to move it out of the way. That's kind of how like these ones are doing. And now I'm going to, of course, lay down some more tape to keep this from moving around. If you have them doubled up, like laying on top of each other, that may cause a little bit of problem for you. Maybe not. Maybe you are a very skilled stenciler and it doesn't bother you, but it can. So you may want it to be flat on top of the wood. And then I'm sure you're all shocked, but I am going to go ahead and do a little bit of waxing, focusing mostly on the outer part of this wood board and kind of brushing it inward a little bit, just to give it some distressing, a little bit of dirtiness. If it's farmhouse, it has to be distressed, right? I know it doesn't, but in my farmhouse style that I like, the more rustic direction of things, that's what I like to do. So I am going to switch off to a much bigger chip brush. Seems like this is a little bit easier to do. So we're just going to speed this process along and really get some of it in there. If you get too much in one spot, you can always get a little bit of the clear wax and try to almost use it like a little bit of an eraser. Or if you get way too much in one spot and the clear wax isn't going to cut it, you can always go back to the original paint color and of course, kind of blend it in a little bit, if you will. Once we're done with the chicken, I'm gonna let's see. And I actually did just the chicken and the pig on either side of this board. I thought it was kind of cute. Here's how it turned out. I did add hardware to the back. I didn't show you because it's adding hardware. If you need those kind of videos, let me know and I will make sure to include that in the future. All right, I have this large wood round from Hobby Lobby. I had to think about that. And I believe, if I remember right, it's a 16-inch round. I think they are $17.99, I believe. And you can get them on sale. I think it's like every other week or maybe every third week. They do a sale where they are 40% off. So do not ever buy any of their wood stuff that's over $5 when it's not on that sale, because you can wait a week and you'll be able to get it. So now I'm going to go in. This one is... oh, I don't remember. Is it? This one might be the Swan White Swan, Swan White, goodness. And this is the same company, the Essential Stencil. Oh, that is really hard to say. And I'm going in, and now this one you'll notice it is obviously a much thinner. When you're washing these stencils, they wash really easily with just a little bit of water and a little soap if you need to. With the DIY paint, it came off with no problem. I don't think I even needed to use any soap. But on these ones that are super thin, just be really careful because there is a much thinner part. You have to be a little bit more delicate, basically. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the hardware on the kind of like the outer rim of this round. I'm going to do it right at, I want to say I did like the 6 and the 18. I don't know. It ends up being equal. I'm using my measuring mat to kind of give me an idea of where I'm putting it. And if you could see it, I don't know if you can, kind of. You could almost see it, just barely. But I end up just drilling right into it, pilot holes first, and then adding the hardware, and I added a bow. That bow got Velcro so that you can switch it out, and coming up in another video, you're going to see how I did the back side of that. I did it a double-sided, but to be continued, if you will. All right, I have a piece of cedar that I went through the process. Man, it was a process to sand it all down. And I'm taking that same, it's actually the same exact color as both of the last projects. This is the Weatherwash in Driftwood. And I'm giving obviously a very healthy coating. This, I like that this is a really easy stain for people who don't like staining, who don't stain, I don't know, who don't like to stain, who can't stain things easily. You could do it inside. It doesn't have a smell, and it's super easy. And it really does end up, don't mind my feet there, it really does blend in some of that lighter tone on the outside. Obviously that outside part is the sapwood, maybe I'm wrong, and then the red part of the cedar is the heartwood. I know that's what it's called. It's called the heart. And I've already lined up. Now this is obviously going to be a porch leaner. It says welcome. I know you've seen these a million times, but I did it with cedar, which is obviously more expensive. I think that board, I got an 8-foot board, and I want to say it was probably like, it says it was 6 inches wide, but it's more like 5.5. That was $40 at Lowe's. I know. You're like, what in the world, Theresa? Maybe it wasn't 40. Maybe it was like 30 something. It was 30 something. I can't remember. Anyways, I know what you're thinking, like, why in the world would you spend that much on a piece of wood board for this? But there's a reason. Because it's cedar, it's going to be a lot better for like longevity. So it's going to go at my shop. And it's going to be just better in the long run for the person who buys it. Because it's cedar, it's going to last longer. It's going to hold up better in our weather. If you don't know, I live in Central Florida, and it is hot, it is muggy, it is rainy, it is bugs everywhere. So it's going to hold up better in the long run. So I did do it in 2 different sections, and my letters may or may not be in the middle. Some of them are much more in the middle. Some of them are not really in the middle at all. I don't know. I'm not very good at that part of, crafting. So to combat that, and I know I'm zoomed out way wider for you to be able to see, but what I'm doing is I'm taking these rub-on transfers that are all these like cute little barnyard animals, a barn, a cow, it's got lots and lots of options. There's like 2 sheets of them, a little duck, there's several ducks, there's chickens, there's roosters, all of it. I think they're all adorable. And I am going to take it, and I'm kind of like sporadically putting it in places that are cute and make, some sense and everything. And what I am going to also do is I'm going to take my and I'm going to cut out some stuff. I'm showing you here doing it at the barn. I don't do it to the barn. I end up doing it to this little cow, and I just lay the stencil right on top of where I want to put it. And then I'm just going to cut it out, and it'll kind of make it look like it's like behind part of the O. I hope this is adorable because I think it's adorable. And they work just like pretty much any rub-on transfer that you come across. I will say, as compared to like the Dollar Tree ones, once you put them down, they do kind of stick. So if you're going to lay them down, make sure they're in the right spot. And I'm just using whatever kind of tool I had handy to really just rub the transfer onto the piece of wood. And I'm going to do kind of the same cutout kind of concept with the barn. I don't show it because it's at a weird angle. You can barely see it. I was fiddling around like, well, what do I want to use? And I ended up doing the barn. You'll see in a minute how it ends up turning out. And I'm going to take some of the same wax that I've used pretty much this entire video. This is from DIY, and this is in the dark wax. They do make a black wax, they make a white wax, they make a teal wax, they make a gold wax. Lots of options for different colored waxes. And I'm just going to kind of start with a very, very light hand, especially on the lettering. I don't want it to be so dark that it blends in with the board, but I want it to be noticeable that I did the waxing, that I distressed it, because I think that it kind of just really goes well with the remainder of this video, with this project, the whole thing. I'll go a lot harsher with the wax on the outsides of the board and kind of the wood part in general, just to give it a little bit more weathering, a little bit more distinction. I think that the weathering on it with the stain is just perfect. If you want just like a little bit of rusticness to your stuff, that's perfectly fine just to leave it the way it is. And if you want more, you can add, you know, obviously the wax. So here's how it turned out. I know the picture's like really tiny. I'm sorry, it's hard to see. I'll put it on my Instagram stories so you can kind of go check it out if you want to. Again, Theresa B Designs over there. I have this crock. It is an old crock. It is actually the lady who runs my shop. It is hers. It used to belong to her parents, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not interested in the brown. Do something to it." And she kind of left it up to me. So I taped up the inside part of it so that I could add a coat of clear spray paint. So I just did a coat of Rust-Oleum Clear. She wants to be able to put utensils in it. That's why I went ahead and taped off the top part of it. And she did pick out this rub-on transfer. I showed them to her because I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I wanted her, you know, to give me the yes on it before I did it, because it was, you know, this has some sentimental value, but she doesn't particularly like it for her design, her look in her, you know, in her kitchen. And so we're going to add this like fuzzy cow. It's adorable. I can't get over it. And this is, I think, where I mixed the crinoline with some of the white swan, just to give the white swan a little bit more of like that off-white color. Her kitchen has a lot of this color and a lot of like a dark gray. So I really wanted to kind of keep it in there, keep it in that same direction. So these rub-on transfers, again, they work really easily. Oh, by the way, I did do a coat of clear on top of the paint before I added the rub-on transfer, because I wanted just to make sure that it wasn't going to have any problems adhering to it. Sometimes that can be a problem. And now I'm taking just a slight bit of the wax so that, of course, it has some distressing. And by the way, I forgot to mention, this crock did have some cracks, so I actually filled it with a CS glue that's called the Star Bond. I used the thin one. That way it was just not going to leave a lot of like streams of glue where you would actually see where the glue was. So it just kind of hopefully helps to reinforce it a little bit, and also make it to where when the paint kind of adhered to it, it didn't just sink into that crack and make it where you could, you know, only see the crack, basically. I'll do the rim, of course, as well, just to give it a little bit of something extra. Before I take out the tape, I do give a quick spray, and here's how it turned out. She loves it. I've already given it to her. She absolutely loved it. I think it turned out amazing. She was super happy about it. So thank you so much for watching my video today. Again, I am over on Instagram and on Facebook if you want to go hang out over there and say hi. And I'll see you guys next time.